So, a very good evening, everyone. Warm welcome to this evening lecture of the VUB EuroMaster program, the keynote of the series on the greening of the economy class. It's my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speakers, Maarit Nyman from DG Grow and Hanna Freienstein. We have the pleasure of your company here as we are tonight addressing one of the really of the expanding new areas where the EU is extending its policies onto, really where the economy is greening, namely the bioeconomy. This is a sphere where Maarit is the head of unit in DG Grow, accompanied by Hanna, so they are both very well positioned to give us the very latest insights onto how the bioeconomy policies in the European Union are actually unfolding as we speak. And I believe that actually, without further ado, I would actually let you both ladies to maybe shortly introduce yourself, and after that.
I just put here the objective of the European Green Deal, which you certainly know. And then I listed a couple of examples on how the bioeconomy contributes to the European Green Deal. And here we talked about the sequestration of of carbon in bio-based products. Then, of course, we can use less fossil-based ingredients, so like natural gas or crude oil, for example, when making plastics. And then, of course, the circular use of biomass, resource efficiency production, and also this possibility of using the side streams of different industries. So you have an industry which produces certain products, but then they always normally have what we call side streams. So part of the raw materials which actually would be wasted because the industry in question would not need them for their own production. So these side streams can be used to prepare some other products sometimes in a totally different industry. And here, for example, the example is producing bio-based detergent, which are made using waste of a beer brewery. So instead of wasting that material, it can be used to produce bio-based detergents.
Then I will quickly continue with the policy framework and bore you a little bit with history. First and foremost, the most important policy document that we have on the bioeconomy is the EU Bioeconomy Strategy. The first time this policy appeared in the European Commission was in 2012 with the first bioeconomy strategy. The bioeconomy strategy is implemented by the means of an action plan. So it's basically a document still from the European Commission that tells you that kind of commits to certain actions and undertakings to promote the bioeconomy. This bioeconomy strategy has been updated for the first time in 2018. And as you see here, it will be updated a second time now in 2025. 2018, could you maybe remind me if this was more towards the beginning of the Commission's mandate or towards the end of the Commission's mandate? Correct. And this is a little bit a defeat because it was usually planned for 2016, which would be more towards the beginning of the Commission's mandate. But there was not a lot of interest, there was not enough support for the bioeconomy and for the update of this strategy. So it was postponed, and it was unclear if this strategy would be reviewed or not. And in the end, it came in 2018. Why was this a little bit a defeat? When you propose something very towards the end of the mandate, of course, it cannot have such an impact during the mandate anymore. If you produce this policy document before, all the following documents can make reference to this and kind of align with the strategy that that we outlined. So I told you again, it will be updated a second time in 2025 again, because this beginning or end of the mandate.
Again.
Correct. So this shows you also a little bit now there is a different focus on the bioeconomy. It has a different importance now. We see really that it has been building up momentum a lot among other policy objectives such as strong biomanufacturing and biotechnology sector I will talk about in a second. But it really shows that there is more emphasis on the bioeconomy and we also really want the bioeconomy strategy to have an impact. This update has been announced, the Commission committed to updating it by 2025 in the biotech and biomanufacturing communication. This is an initiative that I also will talk about a little bit later. But first to the bioeconomy strategy. Maarit already showed you how broad the bioeconomy is. So it's really a lot of sectors, and the biggest difficulty in bioeconomy policy is the trade-offs. Because of course you can leave trees and forests where they are. This is great for biodiversity, or you can cut them. If we cut all of our forests, this would not be very good for the planet. So it's all about finding this balance between using the right amount of biomass sustainably and kind of balancing the different needs between the aspects of the economy, our social aspects, and of the environment, of course. So this is what the bioeconomy strategy is about. It tries really to balance between all these dimensions of sustainability. And the objectives of the bioeconomy strategy, these are the same in the 2012 and in the 2018 strategy. So it's about ensuring food and nutrition security, about climate mitigation and adaptation, also about managing natural resources sustainably. It's about the aspect that we talked about before, so reducing our dependence on fossils and on fossil imports, while at the same time strengthening competitiveness and creating green jobs also in rural communities and so on and so forth. Would you say these are still relevant, or should we update them? Yeah, good, okay. I mean, with the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine and the geopolitical tensions rising, and now a big political focus on competitiveness, as you see also in the political guidelines, I think these objectives remain relevant, maybe even more than ever. Then quickly, I would like to look with you at the action plan. These are the biggest three pillars. The first one, as you see, is really about strengthening and scaling up bio-based sectors and industries, because this is really where there is a major bottleneck. We see that we have great innovations. So if you talk to people that are innovating in the bioeconomy, they come up with great solutions. You have little microbes that eat the off gases of a steel plant and then can make bioeconomy out of it, and so on and so forth. There's really great solutions, but these solutions are niche. It's not commonly adapted, and it remains niche. So it's still very, very relevant that we have to scale up and strengthen the bio-based sectors. And of course, money rules the world, so investments are very crucial in this regards to scale up the markets. This is then more individually, if you want to look at this after, feel free. And again, I wanted to also highlight with you, as it is the latest important Commission document in this sector, the Biotech and Biomanufacturing Initiative. It has been a communication that was adopted in March, and several DGs were involved. The Secretary General of the European Commission was in lead. Does anybody of you have an idea what this could mean when the Secretary General is involved and leads some work? What could this indicate?
Maybe that there is a competition also between the DGs that are involved.
Also, it indicates a little bit that it's difficult to to put this to one specific commission service, because it's sometimes such a broad sectors and a lot of different policy DGs have to come together. And this communication looks a bit at the challenges and the barriers to the sector, as well as, again, it proposes actions, how we can boost the sector. But wait a minute, I'm talking now about biotech. We've been talking about bioeconomy. So let me maybe briefly explain to you biotechnology. Biotech is basically the use of nature's little tools to solve problems. So you use living organisms. This can be yeast, it can be fungi, it can be algae, it can be an enzyme, to develop solutions in different kinds of areas. And it's basically the combination of biology with technology. So biotechnology seems reasonable to me. I forgot my little microorganism over there, but maybe Maarit can show it.
Yeah.
So this is a little microorganism. It's maybe hard for you to keep from.
Can you circulate that?
Of course. My roommate printed it out and had it. So it's so tiny that it's completely invisible to the human eye, but it works a little bit like a factory. So you can provide this microorganism with a certain amount of information and give it something to eat. So I provided, for example, some sort of sugar, and I can modify the information of this microorganism, and then these microorganisms are used to produce something. So you can I put some examples here. In the health and pharma sectors, you can think of vaccines for COVID-19 that is a biotechnology product, as well as insulin that is used for people with diabetes. But you can also produce, for example, biopesticides, food, consumer products such as detergents, what Maarit just mentioned. Or you can even use microorganisms directly on the soil for remediation. For example, they can break down oils and plastics and then kind of clean out the oil spill or something like this in the seas. So it's really, really broad. And also here again, you can see it can be various sectors. I know you're experts now in circular economy and so on, also in the bioeconomy, so maybe you can figure out a little bit these key concepts together. So who maybe wants to start with bioeconomy? What's bioeconomy about? Maybe also in one word or... So as we just said, bioeconomy is really about using biomass. So anything biomass from the seas, from the land, it's using straw, it's using wood, it's using woody residues and so on.
Anything that is biodegradable? With that or not?
Yes, the biomass, yes. But when you use the biomass, when you work it, it can become non-biodegradable. So for example, a bioplastic can be biodegradable or non-biodegradable.
And you need bioeconomy in both cases.
Yes, because you use biomass to produce it in the first place. But again, this is a very important aspect also to keep in mind, of course. Then there's biomanufacturing. Biomanufacturing is using biomass basically at commercial scale, or using biotechnology at commercial scale. So it's, for example, when I set up a big biorefinery or develop a value chain using biomass. And biotech, again, is the use of microorganisms, is the use of nature's little tools. And you see it has overlaps, but yeah, I don't want to stop here for too long. Anybody wants to explain me what the circular economy is about?
Can I just ask a question? Because I had actually myself also never paused to think about the bioeconomy notion as such. Because I think what Luis was alluding to in the beginning is that, I mean, fossil fuels are they're also bio-based, they're just very old, but you would not count them. So how do you actually, is it the renewability then that is the determining factor, or? Because
non-fossil.
Okay, so bio would be non-fossil based, because because that's all right.
That's the definition.
Yeah,
it is not stored geologically.
Right.
But indeed, very good question. Because it's also nature, right?
Yeah.
And we learned at the recent COP that, okay, well, I will not go into what the opening speech was about and how we should not be ashamed of the God's gift of
Right.
But the circular economy, that's circular economy.
Now, no, just kidding.
Yeah, using things again and again and again. So really keeping products in the economy for as long as possible.
I say as long as environmentally sustainable.
Okay, that being better.
Because
I simplify here.
I say this because it's an important difference, because if you keep it as long as possible, it can actually turn to be not sustainable for the environment. For example, if it becomes very energy inefficient to do that. So that qualification, but it is still in the Commission text often, the as possible, although, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
And where these concepts overlap, so circular economy and bioeconomy are two concepts. And if you remember one thing, then it should be this today. And where they overlap, it's the circular bioeconomy. And this is what we want to promote. We want to promote both aspects, and in best case, they overlap. So both bioeconomy, so using biomass, but also keeping it as long as it makes sense, sustainably speaking. I don't want to bore you too much on biotech. It's just a very important sector also for the modernization of our other EU industry. And this is also the conclusion of the communication. It says it's one of the most promising technological areas of the century. And it does have an impact on our industrial value chains and on the transformation of the industry.
Did you mention that the 2012 strategy also had competitiveness as a specific objective?
Because the five objectives
have remained the same. I mean, I'm not at all contesting. I think it's interesting, and it's actually positive to keep in mind that it's not just something recent, because some critique may now be said that entire emphasis is shifting only to that, but one can say no, it's been there all along, and it's a question of balancing and all of that. So yeah,
I think
very nice.
It's particularly true in the bioeconomy, where you have so many trade-offs.
Yeah, indeed.
So the communication explains the challenges and bottlenecks, and as also later you will have to come up with solutions. I thought that it might be interesting for you to share them very briefly. In a nutshell, Europe again is very good on developing, on finding solutions, innovating. But then when it comes to transferring these solutions to the markets, Europe is it's a bit more difficult. So you see like a lot of startups or entrepreneurs or innovators then are taking their innovations to the US, to Southeast Asia or somewhere else for different kinds of reasons. One of this is also regulatory complexity. I mean, we have 27 member states. We have the EU. It's not necessarily known for being the easiest to do business in Europe. And as an example, if you produce a novel food, so a new food product, for example, by using biotechnology to make your milk lactose-free, then it takes 18 to 36 months on average in the EU to take this to the market, whereas in the US it takes 6 to 12 months. So of course it's much faster, and if you have a startup, you wouldn't wait for the EU to approve your product.
And FDA is not known to be the most dynamic in the world either, so there may be markets where it's even much faster still. So yeah.
Another issue is access to finance. Again, this is new solutions. This is disrupting existing value chains. If you start producing with bioethylene instead of normal fossil-based ethylene, you will have to adapt also your production processes. This makes, first of all, you need high investments, and at the same time, the sector is associated with a lot of risks. So it gets difficult to secure the necessary funding, and banks are not particularly happy when you come there with a new bio-based detergent that is using, beer waste from a beer brewery. Yeah.
I have a quick question. Might be a little bit technical, but when we're talking about adapting production processes, if you compare using ethylene to bioethylene, how much is the difference in the production process? So it's not like a plug and play solution, but you actually have to change the whole manufacturing plant, etc.
I cannot tell you.
Okay.
I don't know in the case of ethylene.
No, or if you have nothing. Exactly.
No, a little too technical from my knowledge.
But it also depends. It also depends on the industry because it doesn't necessarily mean that if you want to produce bio-based, and then of course there the question also raises that what is a bio-based product. But if you want to go towards bio-based production, you can also adapt, for example, in the chemicals industry, so-called drop-in solutions. So that you still use the fossil-based feedstock, but you replace part of the feedstock by bio-based ingredients. So that's also, and then it doesn't imply so many changes in the production chain that compared to if you start really from scratch. With bio-based materials.
Indeed, very important aspect to mention, because a so-called drop-in solution would also allow you, for example, to recycle your bio-based plastic with the existing recycling streams. So you would not have to build up a new recycling facility just for this type of new plastic. So there is these and that solutions, but generally speaking, it is something different. So you also have to adapt your industry. Then a challenge that is not limited to the bioeconomy is skills. Biotechnology, biomanufacturing, bioeconomy, all these sectors require skilled workers who also have the necessary infrastructure. Value chain obstacles. If you want to build a business using biomass as a feedstock, you have to be sure that you have the necessary biomass to produce, and also that you kind of have a steady, that you have this steadily, and not just only in the summer where biomass is grown, and in the winter you just stop producing. The problem is that we do have a biomass gap. So up until 2050, there is an expected gap between demand for sustainable biomass and supply of sustainable biomass of 40 to 70%, according to different studies. So we will come to the situation where there is not enough biomass that we can source sustainably than the market demands. So this is also an issue. We will talk about this later. A lot of biomass is currently still burned. We are very passionate about the fact that there's better use than burning biomass, but maybe you will find more soon. Then IP is also intellectual property is also a challenge. It is very important for the industry, for companies to secure their intellectual property. At the same time, it's disputed. For example, there is a proposal, the NGT proposal, that you may have heard of. It's also about facilitating the use of biotechnology in plants to, for example, modify your plant in order that the roots grow longer now that climate change makes it more difficult for the plants to get the water that they need. And here, IP is a very heavily disputed topic. Just to explain it in a nutshell. Public acceptance, I stand here and tell you how great biotech is, but I'm sure not everybody maybe agrees. There is a lot of hesitance, especially when it comes to food applications. Some of you may have heard of this cultivated meat. So this lab-grown meat that everybody's talking about. These products are already banned in Hungary and in Italy, for example. Because there is a lot of skepticism, and also the traditional sectors and people say, I don't want to eat something like this. So it's also an emotional debate. And last but not least, economic security. Biotechnology can be misused, so we have to think about what can go wrong and how to mitigate this risk. Then, of course, the communication wouldn't come up with only problems without the actions and how to solve these problems, but this is maybe for your personal study.
Yes, then if we move on to governance, so of course, the bioeconomy happens at all different levels of governance. So if you click the next slide. So we can really talk about multi-layer governance when we talk about bioeconomy. And if you think about the actors that are or players that are involved in both in influencing the design of different policy measures, even legislation, you have really a wide range of both public, semi-public, private entities who are mobilized. And we, for example, for us, it's extremely important that we consult a very broad range of different types of stakeholders when we are thinking that what should we propose as measures of the bioeconomy, which reflects the situation of industry, the green transition, the competitiveness. So we organize these type of meetings where we give the floor to stakeholders very regularly. And our stakeholders, of course, include not only industry associations, they are of course important participants, but we have, of course, member state representatives, we have also non-governmental organizations participating. We have also, of course, a broad level of different I would say sub-national organizations participating in the meetings, and also academia. So it's really a very broad range of people and stakeholders that we involve. Then, of course, you have the same type of structures in member states, even in regional level, because bioeconomy happens in regions. At EU level, as I just explained, we do the consultations. We also have a specific structure I will talk about in a moment. So we use the so-called public-private partnerships also in the area of bioeconomy. And then if we look at the global level, you also have different types of global government arrangements. For example, very recently in the summer, the G20 group adopted high-level principles on the bioeconomy, and these principles are, if you look up and see what is included. I mean, they are very broad principles. For example, on how to ensure the sustainable sourcing of biomass, how the bioeconomy research should be. Also, this kind of idea of involving everybody, not leaving anyone out. So more of this social dimension of bioeconomy. And these, of course, are very general principles. They are voluntary principles, but still they raise this awareness on the bioeconomy and the possibilities of bioeconomy. And they also very often then are taken on board when different countries, different international organizations build their policies which are relevant to bioeconomy. And then many member states have their own bioeconomic policies. This slide, I mean, there might be even more member states who have now a bioeconomy strategy, but this is just to illustrate that you have individual member states having a bioeconomy strategy. You have also, like it's the case in Germany, the different German Länder have their own bioeconomy strategies, even biomass strategies. You have also regional groupings or macro-regional groupings which have a bioeconomy agenda, like in the Baltic Sea region you have one. So you have really a number of different strategies and action programs on the bioeconomy. And one very important tool for the European Commission is what we call the public-private partnerships. And this is very institutionalized instrument that the Commission is using in a number of different areas, not only in the bioeconomy, but in the field of bioeconomy, the public-private partnership is called the Circular Bio-based Europe Joint Undertaking. And the idea is that you have a commission as the public partner, and then in this case you have the industry as the private partner. So the industry is represented by a consortium of bio-based industries, and they cover very many different sectors. And then the Commission and this bio-based industries consortium, they cooperate together. And the idea is, and the funding comes from the Horizon Europe, so the EU's research and innovation funding program. And the budget for the whole programming period is about 2 billion. And the idea with this joint undertaking is that they really do this research on new innovative bio-based materials. For example, different types of bioplastics that could be used, for example, in making the dashboards in the cars, or bioplastic that could be used, for example, in packaging materials, in packaging, for example, food. So they do these type of projects on different innovative bio-based materials. They also do a very important work in de-risking investments in the bio-based industries. And one key objective that they have is to try to make sure that we have the production facilities in the European Union. So the production plants to produce bio-based materials and products. And they have been investing in what they call these flagship projects around the European Union. Also, sometimes outside the European Union, like you see, there's one plant in Norway. So that, and these plants normally are what we call the first of their kind facilities. So very innovative. With low energy use, practically no waste, so circularity is ensured, and also implementing this idea of industrial symbiosis. So this idea that in the same plant, very different industries can use these side streams of another industry for their production. And the governance, of course, includes also at the EU level a number of different instruments. Until now, the bioeconomy has been very much focused on research and innovation, and it certainly continues to be focused on research and innovation. But until now, our colleagues in Directorate General Research and Innovation have been in the lead on the bioeconomy, but working very closely, of course, with different Commission services. Now with the new Commission, it will be our colleagues in Directorate General Environment who will take the lead in updating the EU bioeconomy strategy, as Hanna said. So that might also have an impact on these different governance tools that will be used. So I have put here just a couple of examples. The annual Bioeconomy Conference, then the European Bioeconomy Policy Forum, where the member states are participating and discussing topical bioeconomy issues. And then there is also a structure which is called Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors, where we have around, maybe, do we have 20?
Yeah, more or less.
Yes, more or less 20 young professionals, students who are selected as youth bioeconomy ambassador, who very actively engage in promoting bioeconomy, raising awareness, participating in events, and they they really, I mean, they do tremendously good work. They are extremely motivated. I hope that we can keep the bioeconomy ambassadors.
So I will say a few last words before the break on the way forward, because again, we just started with a new commission, we have a new mandate, and as you probably are aware, there's a lot of focus on competitiveness. The political guidelines are a little bit our point of reference at this stage when it comes to the different initiatives. What I just want to share with you is that the bioeconomy strategy will not be the only initiative that will be relevant for bio-based industries and the bio-based sectors. So these are the 7 different chapters under the first big chapter on sustainable prosperity and competitiveness. And there already we have quite a number of initiatives that might be relevant for the sector. On one hand, we are working on an EU Biotech Act that will be published next year, which is quite an ambitious timeline. Our president, von der Leyen, said in her political guidelines that she wants to make the most out of the biotech revolution and how great biotech is. So there will be a Biotech Act that will also be part of another initiative, which is a strategy for European life sciences. Also, maybe you've heard of this already, but the Commission will propose a new Circular Economy Act. The idea behind this is also to really to promote a single market for residues, byproducts, waste streams, because also, how to say, in one member state, you can maybe use a waste product or a residue, but you cannot ship this to your neighboring country and then use it there, because sometimes the conditions for using these waste and side streams are different. Then there will also be a new chemicals industry package upcoming, and of course the Clean Industrial Deal. We probably are all aware about that. And our director at DG Grow will also be in the lead for Industrial Decarbonization Accelerator Act. Hopefully you don't have to remember this for your exams. Mm-hmm. But of course, we often say decarbonization. We prefer the word defossilization because products contain carbon. You cannot decarbonize a chair, or you cannot decarbonize your computer whatsoever, because carbon is everywhere. The question is, where does this carbon come from? Does it come from fossil or from a more sustainable alternative carbon resource? But this is what we know by this point, and what we also will be working on in the next months and years. So if you have any questions at this stage, I hope you interrupted us when you had one. You can always ask us if something pops up. Feel free to ask. If not, we will resume after the break, and you can also ask questions there.